4 months after Hurricane Maria, FEMA is still providing food and water to storm victims in Puerto Rico. Early in the crisis, the agency awarded a large contract to a businesswoman from Atlanta to supply millions of meals. But as David Begnaud reports, only a fraction were delivered.
I think FEMA took a chance because they wanted the lowest bid.
Tiffany Brown is the one-woman operator.
Now, I will say, so for those who are not familiar with this story, this was something that happened a few years ago. And this is like no disrespect to sis, because I know how I can be with government contracting. The fact that she's from Atlanta and, she's Black, that just always puts a stain on everything. And that's why this is news and not other people who have defaulted on contracts. That's just my personal opinion. But she is right. Like a lot of times these agencies, they want you to make a miracle out of nothing. And so, without going too deep into the story before it comes up on the video, it's important to know that a lot of times these agencies, even though if it's an emergency or it's something that is super serious, they still want the lowest bid. So just making sure that I'm covering that part, that I feel her on that they just wanted the lowest bid, but then they're going to always try to say, well, you should have made a miracle happen, even though that's a large amount of money she received.
Of Tribute Contracting in Atlanta. She got a Google alert about FEMA seeking bids to provide meals to Puerto Rican victims of Hurricane Maria.
Going back to one of my other videos about thinking inside and outside of the box and Googling, contracts that are out there, or even setting up an alert. Give a quick instructional video on how to set up Google alerts on your computer. So it'll send you something to your email based on whatever criteria you put in, and doesn't matter what it is.
Last October, Brown scored a $156 million
have mercy
contract to provide 30 million meals at a cost of $5.10 each. She subcontracted the job to 2 companies, including a corporate caterer in Atlanta with 11 employees. Did you really think that 11?
Woo! So a little bit to unpack there. She's the fact that she didn't have. If you're thinking about meals, you're thinking of that many meals, you're thinking about someone who already operates in that capacity. So just as soon as they said some contract to a company, like unless it's someone who has a warehouse and they make military meals like MREs, military ready, I don't know what MRE stands for. But anyway, those military meals that are packaged, it's really hard to think about delivering 30 million meals, like Jimmy Dean meals. That's a whole lot. And it's really, it troubles me that I get that she was just trying to make it do what it do, but that just by the transition of she subcontracted it to someone who had 11 employees, and I already knew she was just she didn't think through it.
People were going to do millions of meals?
She told me she was experienced with this work, and as time went on, that she would be able to hire additional people to scale up.
Only 50,000 of the 30 million meals were.
Now, I do want to say, as far as scaling up, that is definitely a thing. I can understand where a person is like, hey, we're going to build a plane on the way down. That's not advisable when you're talking about that amount of money. That's a lot of money, and that's a lot of meals. And also, this is an emergency situation. So you don't want to just leave the agency holding the bag, and you're really inadvertently hurting people who really, really need your help. So, it's like someone says, hey, once the money starts coming in, then I'll be able to grow. I do understand that and feel that, but this is one of those things you probably don't want to play with.
Were delivered. FEMA terminated her contract due to late delivery.
FEMA should have understood that.
FEMA picked Brown after vetting her, even though she had no experience working large-scale disasters. Brown has had 5.
No experience. That goes back to some people saying, hey, I can't get a contract unless I have past performance. There are always ways. I really want to know who did her proposal. And I don't even know. They don't say specifically that there was a proposal involved. So that might be a whole other thing where she just contacted the agency and said, hey, I can perform this work. But just knowing that she didn't have any experience and she was still able to get a $156 million contract is huge.
Previous government contracts terminated for not delivering required food and her inability to ship products.
I've had challenges in that area, particularly.
She's been canceled before. She's been canceled before. Her information is out there on the interwebs. So I did another video on being canceled and how it's not a death sentence, but she had been canceled several times. So the fact that she was able to kind of, I don't want to use the term slither, but find her way back in to the government space at such a large scale lets you know that, say you do something that is out of your control or something happens within your company and you cannot perform the contract and you do get canceled, it's not a death sentence. Even if it's a termination for default, that is not a death sentence. That just means that, you need to try harder, because clearly it doesn't, it's not the end all that be all. Just know that if you are canceled, it's not a death sentence, but it's definitely not a good look. It's just like having bad reviews on Google, but times 10.
Because I'm so young and being a woman in this world, in the food industry world.
She had challenges in the past because she's a woman in the food industry. Now, I have been in male-dominated fields pretty much my whole adult life. Military for 20 years, warrant officer. So military is one. Warrant officer in Signal, which is information technology. Those are all hits against me. And then, of course, my business is facility support services, facility maintenance, facility management, whatever you want to call it, which are all male-dominated fields. So I can feel her on that. She's a Black woman. But when you're talking about, in the food industry world, I would rather her had said in the world. But don't use that. You knew what you were getting into. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm kind of iffy about that answer. And again, this is no disrespect to sis, because I know how it can be, but it's more of a teaching moment.
One government agency put out a notice saying Brown's company could not work for them again, but that did not apply to FEMA. Democrats like Representative Stacey Plaskett have criticized FEMA's decision.
The other agencies go so far as not just to stop the contract, but to issue a system-wide warning saying that this is not a company to do business with. Then how could they have been prepared to do a $156 million contract with a one-person operation?
My biggest mistake was not asking for more help.
So Ms. Brown's been paid about $255,000, but she's appealing to FEMA for $70 million more. Now, FEMA insists there was no disruption in the food distribution chain in Puerto Rico because of this debacle. And if you're wondering where the unused meals went, we found it in this storage locker here in Atlanta. 60,000 meals. And Jeff, this is what they look like. They've been sitting here since November.
Okay, so just to kind of give a few more tidbits about that FEMA contract that was essentially canceled with $156 million, supposed to be 30 million meals delivered that did not get delivered. I believe she only delivered a few thousand, and that was such a tragedy. Definitely a tragedy, but that goes back to making sure that you're familiar with the industry that you are working in. There's a lot of people who are saying just go out there. I agree with going out there and bidding on contracts, because I believe you just need to figure it out. But something like that FEMA contract lets you know that you can't just go into an industry that you have no idea and not have a plan and not knowing how to fulfill this contract. And so that's just a perfect example of, when building a plane on the way down goes wrong. At that level, you should really have a backup plan, a backup to a backup, or at least funding in order to make it work. So if you don't have the time, you don't have the funding, you don't have the experience, really what do you have? Connections, those types of things, because she's working with someone who clearly wasn't familiar with government work. Who knows really? But I just wanted to give just a little reaction to that video and show you that, sometimes things do go wrong. And I hope everything is working out for her and her company. I haven't heard much from, this is several years ago, so I haven't heard much from this company or about this company or any type of updates or anything like that. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think it was crazy? Do you think that was like, hey, I would have figured it out? I had some friends who were like, hey, you know, I'm prior military. I would have went right to the military base or contacted someone who is whoever the contractor or the vendor who was providing the MREs, and we would have worked this thing out. I would have mortgaged my house, whatever. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please ensure that you book a consultation with me